Marc Finaud is a former French diplomat and a professor at the Geneva Center for Security Policy. He joins me now live. Thanks for speaking to us, Marc. These talks are resuming after stopping 5 months ago. First of all, why were they suspended in the first place?
Well, it was decided because of the election of the new Iranian president. So the new administration requested some time to put into place its new policies, new teams. Just like when Biden decided to rejoin the agreement after his election, he took 4 months before the negotiations actually started.
A big question for many people in the West, at least, is Iran serious about these negotiations, or is it perhaps just stalling?
Well, obviously, Iran's main objective is to get the sanctions lifted, all the sanctions that Trump reimposed after pulling out of the agreement. It's a major objective that is shared by all representatives at each level in government, parliament. They know that it's a precondition to get their economy back on track, and in particular, be able to export oil on a much larger scale.
Now, you talk about this pre-existing condition about sanctions, and Tehran's new negotiating team has been very clear, saying that it wants all of these sanctions from the U.S. and the EU to be dropped since 2017. Is there any way that would ever happen, really?
Yes, because the agreement was based initially on this reciprocity, lifting of all sanctions against restrictions and concessions by Iran on its nuclear program. So once the U.S. pulled out and reinstated sanctions, Iran felt, on the basis of that reciprocity, entitled to suspend some of its commitments. And so now the only solution is to lift all sanctions to allow Iran to revert, to come back to full compliance with the agreement.
And some European diplomats and American diplomats do consider that to be unrealistic. But let's just say they go ahead and happens. They agree to lifting these sanctions. What would be the biggest sticking point then?
Well, obviously, we know that it is complex because of the size of the sanctions, the number of sanctions, the entities affected, the assets freeze, etc. So the United States announced that it would be willing to do this as soon as possible. But of course, the idea would be to choreograph this, as the EU representative said, to make sure that this will be met every time by return by Iran to its obligation. So sort of tit for tat, step-by-step approach.
There's some people who've expressed fear about Iran's uranium enrichment program at the moment. How concerned are you about their ability or their growing ability to build a nuclear weapon?
Well, first, I mean, this result is really the result of the failure of the American policy of maximum pressure under Trump. And of course, the Iranians said that they actually announced what violations of the agreement they would carry out in order to put pressure on the other partners, the Europeans, Russia and China, to exert pressure on their side on the United States to come back to full compliance with the agreement. So obviously, some of these measures are worrying because they get Iran closer to a critical threshold, closer to military level, military grade of nuclear enrichment, or production of plutonium is really prohibited and excluded by the agreement. So it is not taken place. But enrichment, when you reach the level of 60%, again, it's a symbolic threshold because you can reach the military grade of 90% more quickly and more easily. But again, the quantities that Iran has accumulated since it has started violating the agreement are so far away to any decisive size of stockpiles to allow making a nuclear weapon that it is still time to negotiate and reverse these advances in enrichment.
Marc, thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us. Marc Finaud there speaking to me live from Geneva. Thank you.
Thank you.